Hi, hello, how you doing? Look, I've got to say sorry, but nobody told me you were coming. I didn't know you were going to watch the video today. Would you like to come back tomorrow? No? You'd like to see the Milviz Cessna 310R today? Okay, but look, I've got to apologize. I haven't had time to give it a wipe down. Hope you don't mind. The windscreen might be a little grubby. Yeah, it's the 310R model. First came out in 1975, with the first variants making an appearance in the mid-50s. I don't know, windscreen doesn't look that dirty. Three-bladed props on twin Continental 285 horsepower engines. No, it's not the turbo variant. I think that came out in the 80s. One of the best GA flight models in Microsoft Flight Simulator so far. Stunning attention to detail and some very unique features for this sim. Thanks for watching the SimHanger channel. My name's Mark and let's get started. There's a click spot on the pilot side window support column to display or hide a tablet. This tablet allows you to set and configure numerous items. Just open the passenger front door. I see we've got the co-pilot. We'll get rid of him. There he goes, he's gone. Now he's out the way, you jump into the seat and I can show you some other features. Let's open up the baggage and locker doors on this aircraft. There we go. Let's take a look. There's a rear baggage door and both engines at the back of the cowling have lockers. And further baggage can be put in the nose cone. So, plenty of baggage space then. The Cessna 310 can take 4 or 5 passengers, depending on whether you've got a co-pilot or not. For today's flight, I think we'll add 2 passengers. Click the relevant boxes and passengers are added, and they're animated too. He looks alright, she looks a little nervous. Has she flown with me before? To add the appropriate level of baggage to the aircraft is equally as simple. Just click on the locker or baggage area where you want to store the luggage. And as soon as you do, it's loaded into the aircraft. Milviz haven't missed a trick with this aircraft. And please note I've given it a wipe down. Just for you. Don't know if you noticed, but as we added passengers, the attitude changed. The aircraft moved. Let's just get rid of the yoke. It'll be easier to see things then. There we are, yoke's gone, and now we can get rid of the control lock. We're getting ready to depart, so let's close up all the doors. One thing you'll notice, the sounds and animations are absolutely perfect. Let's have a quick look at what else the tablet's got for us. Under services we can adjust the fuel, and I suggest you do it here and not in sim. And here's a unique feature, we can change how clean or dirty it is. And the way this is represented on the aircraft, well, it's been very well done indeed. If anybody who follows the channel will know I like a little bit of bush flying, so a bit of dirt, well, it's perfect. Under the options tab, you can select and configure what navigation you want installed. The standard is SOBO GNS 500 series, which is what I've got installed today, but it also supports the TDS GTN 750 as well as the PMS variant, including the freeware version, which is what I normally use. In fact, it looks amazing with the GTN 750 installed. You can select the initial state. Default is the standard cold and dark every time. Owned, well, it becomes a persistent aircraft and you'll find it in the state that you left it. And if rental, well, who knows what state it'll be in when you jump into the aircraft. You can also set realism levels as well as the system or equipment failure levels. This is comprehensively modeled and fully explained in the attached documentation that comes with the aircraft. The final status tab, and that's linked to your failures and realism settings, shows the wear and tear of equipment over a period of time. As I said, it's a persistent aircraft if you want it to be. There we are, we've done with the tablet for now. We can now go ahead and hide that. If you like Just Flight's Piper Arrow, SimWorks Studios Kodiak, or Aerosoft's Twin Otter, well, you're absolutely gonna love the attention to detail in this one. If you're looking for realism, this could be the bird for you. I know, enough yakking, let's get away. Right, let's prep for start. We can close the door and lock it. Make sure that our parking brake is on, all the way out is on, that's it. Fuel controls are between the seats, and check that both tanks are on main, which they are. That's all good. Mixture controls fully forward. Oh, listen to those sounds. Props fully forward as well now. and push the throttles forward about 1 inch. Every switch and dial on this aircraft has been fully modelled. Here we've got our lighting and de-icing controls, and also the fully functional circuit breakers. And you could model failures yourself simply by pulling out the relevant circuit breaker. As I said before, Milviz haven't missed a trick with this aircraft. Okay, let's get the battery switch on, then both the left and right alternator switches on as well. We have power to the aircraft. As part of your pre-flight flow, there's a number of fault lights that can be tested, and as I mentioned before, everything works. Let's just hide the co-pilot's yoke for now. Check that the cowl flaps are fully open. In is fully open, out is fully closed. It's fairly warm today, so we definitely need them open. Check that we've got fuel and they're reading correctly. Both half tank, that's fine. On the co-pilot side, we can check that the alternate air valves are off. Yes, they're off, that's good. Now to check that all our magnetos are on. They're down next to the battery and alternator switches. Main and standby magnetos for each engine. 4 magnetos in all. That's it, they're all on. Now to switch both fuel pumps on to low. We would only select high if one of the fuel pumps failed. Low for startup, takeoff and landing. We'll start the left engine first, so push the primer switch to the left, wait 4 or 5 seconds, then hit the left engine start button, and the engine should fire up. There we go. Once started, the primer button will move to the center. Before we start the right engine, we can just check that the engine start is good. Looking for an RPM of about 1000, that's okay, and looking for oil pressure over 10 psi at least after 30 seconds. Looks like we have a good start on the left engine. We'll now do exactly the same for the right engine. Primer switch across to the right, wait 4 or 5 seconds and then hit the start switch. Hold it down till the engine fires. We have a successful start on the right engine, and once again let's check our oil pressure and our RPM. The gauges have individual needles for each engine. I'm happy with that. Alternator switch on and let's bring the aircraft alive. Just give them a moment or two to initialize. I've already done a flight plan and we're in Africa today, and we're in Zimbabwe. Just a short hop today from Kariba with a planned landing at a dirt strip in Chirundu. We'll be departing to the west, picking up an NDB beacon, then fly to the estuary of the mighty Zambezi River and fly over the Kariba Dam wall. From there we'll be heading north to our destination Chirundu. It's a VFR flight and we'll be tracking along the Zambezi River as our main reference point. The Zambezi River marking the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe. And we'll be using live weather. It's a lovely day in Zimbabwe today, good visibility, so we'll be flying at 5,500 feet. Barometer is set and our current altitude is 1,700 feet. Some scattered clouds, but that shouldn't be a problem for us. Our NDB, not far from Kariba Airport, has a frequency of 300, so let's just set that, and as soon as we set that, the needle should automatically swing and pick it up. There we are, change to the active frequency, and there goes the NDB. Good, we're picking it up. We're about ready to go. Nav and anti-collision lights on, and let's now put on the taxi light as well. Handbrake is off and just a short taxi to the runway. We'll hold short and do a quick run up and then we'll be away to Chirundu. Typical Zimbabwe weather, clear blue skies with just a scattering of cloud. It is a little humid today, so we might pick up a bit of turbulence on the way. The Cessna 310 taxis very nicely, but easy on the throttles because she can run away from you. Engines have warmed up, so you pull back a little on the throttle. We'll now hold short. We'll just face over here and do a quick run up. We'll just push the throttles forward. We're looking for about 1700 on the RPM. Listen to those engine sounds. Parking brake on. Now we'll cycle the props, left engine first, and we should see the RPM drop to around 1200, which it is. Do the same now for the right engine. One last cycle using both prop levers. And the RPM's returning to 1700. PNT's looking good. Because of our altitude, I'm just going to pull back a little bit on my mixture levers, just a fraction or two. We've got a fairly long runway, so don't have to worry about flaps. Just test the magnetos. Once again, left engine first, and we should see a drop of between 50 and 100 on the RPM gauge, not more. That's okay, and we can go and test the rest of the magnetos. All okay there, so we can now reduce the RPM back to around about 1000. The Milviz 310 also includes a comfort monitor and monitors the comfort or discomfort of your passengers. So we better set the temperature controls and airflow. Gotta keep your passengers happy. We're being cleared to enter the runway, so landing lights on and our pitot heat on as well. And last but not least, let's get our strobe lights on. Vacuum pressure is where it should be. Quick pre-flight briefing. Departing full throttle, no flaps, runway 26. We'll remain below 3,500 feet till over the dam wall. Then climb to cruise at 5,500. We'll hold runway heading, which will take us more or less directly over the NDB. Then maintaining a westerly direction over the dam wall, then turn north for Churundu. I'm not going to talk during the initial takeoff. I'll let you enjoy the sound. So, let's go. Takeoff speed obviously varies depending on the weight, but you want to start pulling the nose wheel up at about 84-86 knots and rotation at about 90, definitely before 100 knots. This is a bespoke flight model and you'll feel that on takeoff. You need to maintain backward pressure on the yoke to maintain a reasonable climb for the first few seconds or so. And those gear animations, well, they're absolutely brilliant. We're about 600 feet above the ground level and now pulling back on my props so I don't overstress the engine, bringing the RPMs back to between 24 and 25. Now pulling back on the throttles. I don't want to climb too fast till I'm past the dam wall, and again so I don't stress the engine, looking for between 24 and 25 inches of manifold pressure. We'll hand fly this until we're past the dam wall. Kariba is a man-made lake as a result of the dam, and at one time was the biggest in the world. At its widest point I think it's something like 18 kilometers and over 300 kilometers long. Kariba Dam Wall, which I can't quite remember but I think was built in the late 50s or early 60s, was an engineering feat in itself at the time. I did a lot of my growing up in Zimbabwe and was a frequent visitor to Kariba. Not far now from the NDB, and we'll aim to stay below 3,500 feet until we're past the dam wall. Taxi lights and landing lights can now come off. We'll continue to hand fly this in a westerly direction until we're over the mouth of the Zambezi. We'll then turn north, head over the dam wall, and then on for a short hop to Churundu. Reasonably warm today, so we'll leave the cowl flaps open. Not as much turbulence at these lower levels as I expected there to be. We'll probably find more once we get more inland. The Milviz 310 Romeo is a pleasure to fly, and she responds to control inputs just as you want her to. Keep everything within operating limits, and it's very well behaved indeed. This is Microsoft Flight Simulator default scenery, and that's the dam wall that we're about to pass over. Time now to climb to our published altitude, 5,500 feet, and also time to test out the autopilot, which I think is the default Microsoft Flight Simulator autopilot at this time. I'm using a combination of the buttons in Sim as well as my Bravo throttle quadrant. Everything seems to work except for the landing lights. That's no shock, as the one in this aircraft is a 3-stage, extend, retract and an off position. And I haven't tested it fully, but I'm not sure vertical speed works as it should from a Bravo throttle quadrant either. But for now, time to change our heading and get a little bit more back on track, and that's the Zambezi River below us. The mighty Zambezi River, one of the biggest rivers in Africa. Well, she climbed at 700 feet per minute to our cruise altitude of 5,500, no problem at all. Manifold pressure has dropped slightly with the increase in altitude, but that's as expected, and speed starting to build, now at 150 knots. If you're wondering why I chose this route, well, in my younger days I was very fortunate to be able to canoe down the Zambezi River from the dam wall to Chirundu. 3 days, 2 nights, supported by 3 very good friends and a healthy respect for hippos, crocodiles and buffalo. If you click in this area here, if you develop a failure or fault, it will give you basic information so you can see what that fault is. That's not in the real aircraft, of course, that's just for sim use. There's a wide and varied selection of animals that live along the Zambezi as well as the outer regions. Not sure if it's still the case today, but there were healthy populations of elephant, lions, giraffe, just to name a few. Chirundu is 12 nautical miles ahead, so it's time to start our descent. Chirundu is one dirt strip, runways 06 and 24. I was planning on landing on runway 24, but the winds changed, so we'll go for runway 06. I'll set my descent initially for 3,500 and a descent rate of about 1,000 feet per minute. Keeping an eye on my airspeed and throttling back as necessary. I want to stay below 180 knots. I did mention that the Milviz Cessna 310 Romeo has a bespoke flight model, and nowhere will you feel this more than during the landing. At all times, keep your eye on your airspeed. There's a blue line at about the 103 knot mark. Don't go below that, even at full flap, and wait till you're completely over the threshold before pulling the throttles back to idle, or you'll drop out of the sky like a stone. That beep you just heard was a warning that I'm within 1,000 feet of my selected altitude. Landing lights on, speed about 170 knots, which is fine, and we'll be coming up on 4,000 feet shortly. Our approach to runway 06 will be over the river. 7 nautical miles to go. We've descended to 3,000 feet and the airport is coming up on our right. So time to take the autopilot off and let's go in for our final approach. Flaps 1 notch down. That's our gear going down. I have 3 green, fuel pumps to low. And now flaps to full, 35 degrees. Watching my airspeed, 110 knots, don't want to get much slower than that. Not working the throttle too much as I'm a little high, so fairly rapid descent. Chirundu Airport, dead ahead. high, but using my rate of descent to control my airspeed, and it's a fairly long runway. On landing, expect a fairly firm touchdown. The landing gear's very stiff. Throttles to idle and flare. That nose just dumps itself down. 60 knots manual braking. Retracting flaps. Well, they both look happy enough with the landing. That is a smile I see on her face now. We're just gonna backtrack here and take a parking here to our left. We can now put our landing lights off, and as we're down safe and sound, the fuel pumps left and right can both come off, which is back to the center position. We're now parked and time for the shutdown. Milviz have included a few Easter eggs with this aircraft. Here's one. If your aircraft is as dirty as mine, you will see on the co-pilot side there's a bottle, and as you move around, so the bottle will roll up and down. Nice touch, Milviz. I mentioned there was a passenger comfort indicator. There it is. It's still in the green, so all good. Cabin temperature, how you fly, and various other aspects will affect whether that bar stays green, orange or red. Milviz brought out the 310 for prepared in 2010, and I owned it and I flew it. This is better. This is much better. More options, more skill required. I think they also did an X-Plane one, but I never owned it in X-Plane. So in closing, where do I rank the Milviz Cessna 310R? Well, I have no hesitation in giving it my full recommendation. In terms of twins, well, it ranks along with the Aerosoft Twin Otter. And for GA, well, it'll have a place in my hangar along with the Just Flight Piper Arrow and SimWorks Studios Kodiak. This is a great addition to the Sim, and I just haven't had time or the scope to show you all the features. Have you bought it? What do you think? Are you going to buy it? Let me know in the comments below. It's not perfect, there's still a few little graphical niggles, but Milviz have said there'll be an update coming soon in about a week. Thanks very much for joining me today. Hope you found this interesting and informative. Stay well, look after yourselves. I'll see you all again very soon, and from Zimbabwe, bye for now.